Smith.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I was running my eye through the list of sectors that we're dealing with here, and three of them that I'm responsible for, I wanted to comment on today around the Commerce Commission, the Retirement Commission, or now called the Commissioner for Financial Capability, and the Financial Markets Authority. All three of those areas are integral to a broader discussion that we're having around expanding the financial capability of New Zealanders and protecting those New Zealanders who struggle or have an absence of basic money skills and get themselves into terrible situations with debt and very expensive debt, and the way that what the government is trying to do to improve a lot of those New Zealanders. And there are elements to it, three elements to it. I mean, first, legislation itself can take you so far, and we've done very significant reforms in the consumer credit space in the last couple of years, where we've introduced the Responsible Lending Code, where we've introduced rules around responsible lending in the payday lending space, in the truck shop space, and trying to get a much better clarity around what particularly vulnerable consumers are signing themselves up to. And that legislation has been passed, and we're confident that it's going to make quite a big difference to particularly that end of the spectrum, the spending spectrum, which have got themselves in trouble over the years. But it's only so good if it's properly enforced, and that's why the Commerce Commission needs to be actively engaged in the enforcement of that new legislation, and they have been, and it's been very interesting and reassuring to see over the past few months the Commerce Commission very active in this consumer space, policing the Fair Trading Act as well as the Consumer Credit Law, and they've been out there dealing with some of the truck shops and sending clear notices to them to change their behaviours in the way that they operate. And then the Financial Markets Authority, but changing the legislation, enforcing that legislation only takes you so far. The much broader task and a multi-generational task that we've got is to improve the financial capability of New Zealanders as a whole. And that's why the government last year put out a government statement on financial capability, and because one of the things that struck me when I first became Minister responsible in this area was that just about every government department had some form of financial capability programs underway, whether it was through MSD and the massive investment that they make in budgeting, through to youth, to Pacific Island Affairs, to the Commerce Commission, to Treasury, to schools, to all sorts of areas. And because it's such an important thing, and many private sectors and players and banks were also engaged in this discussion. And so, but there was a danger that we hadn't really got a coordinated effort, and so there is a national strategy that's been developed by the Commissioner of Financial Capability, and we've said as a government that this is actually important to us. This is the strategy, and we're expecting all the government agencies at least to work together very collaboratively on trying to improve the performance or the outcome of this area, and also to work collaboratively with the private sector. And so we're seeing, I'm looking forward to a one-year-on update in a couple of months of the progress that's been made in that area. And overall, if we can do everything we can to equip New Zealanders once they come out of school and into the community with a better understanding of how debt operates, how interest operates, a better understanding of when you buy something for $15 a week for 20 weeks, that's going to be a lot more expensive than potentially of buying something directly. And so all those basic things that we're going about in a systematic way, so dealing with the legislation, dealing with the enforcement, followed by dealing with a wider effort of financial capability. And so, and I'm conscious of the fact that one or two members at the back end of the House might find this a little dry, but it's this kind of, it's this systematic, thorough, and ongoing efforts that need to be made across every aspect of government that leads to the outcome for New Zealanders that we're trying to attain. And that is an ability to raise living standards in this country and give every New Zealander an opportunity to surprise and succeed. Thank you.